This morning on The Dish, renowned Greek cookbook author Diane Kochilas sharing secrets of her family's native island, Ikaria, known today for its longevity. About 1 in 3 Icarians live into their 90s, and a large part of that is because of their flavorful and healthy diets. Kochilas explores them in her new book, The Ikaria Way, and showed us how they can be embraced no matter where you are. So the question is, can you have a good Greek market without a great olive bar?
Όχι. That means no.
Look at that.
For more than 20 years, Diane Kochilas has been sharing Greek culture and cuisine with a global audience.
I think this should be enough for the 3 of us, don't you think?
Oh.
She picked out some of her favorite ingredients at Mediterranean Foods in Queens, New York.
We can't do anything without extra virgin Greek olive oil.
What do you use it on?
Everything. It's the absolute most basic ingredient in all Greek cooking.
Her new cookbook, The Ikaria Way, amplifies key Mediterranean dishes. But this author of more than 20 books about Greek cuisine will be the first to say the Ikaria Way is often about throwing out the instructions.
So one of the secrets here is you don't want to pour all of this in, you kind of want to eyeball it.
She spilled the beans for us. Lemony giant beans, that is.
You should do the olive oil, and you should do it the Greek way.
What's the Greek way?
Put the spout over the dish and close your eyes.
Close my eyes?
Close your eyes and pour.
A generous approach, showing it's sometimes okay to ignore the measuring cup. So you don't eyeball it, you expressly close your eyes.
No, I don't expressly close my eyes, but I wanted to give you the sense of not shying away from the use of olive oil.
That laid-back ethos, integral to Ikaria, a sparse Greek island known for its stunning scenery, rich history, and close-knit villages. But it's best celebrated today for something else, its people.
I knew I had to find how this island is different than all the rest.
Highlighted by best-selling author and documentarian Dan Buettner as one of the world's 5 blue zones. Residents of Ikaria live exceptionally long lives.
Ikaria is historically remote and relatively impoverished, and yet it has provided this recipe book to longevity. How is that the case?
The recipe isn't always about the food. The recipe is about taking one day at a time, about not stressing out about much. It's about enjoying your time especially with the people you love.
As Kochilas says, Ikaria is the island where people don't live by the clock, yet outlive most of them. Her book emphasizes the Mediterranean diet's contribution to that, with a plant-based approach to well-known recipes.
There's a lot of vegetarian dishes in Greece. Greeks would never call themselves vegetarian because it's such a natural way for us to eat.
Even in meat-based classics, Kochilas finds satisfying substitutions. Her ferry boat spaghetti is topped with cinnamon, allspice, and nutmeg-seasoned lentils instead of a traditional ground beef. The rich and hearty Greek favorite moussaka is made vegan.
This is going to be a little messy. Are you ready?
I am ready. I'm ready for the mess.
Blanketed in a dairy-free bechamel sauce, layers of sweet potato, eggplant, and chickpeas.
I see what you mean by your recipes being a mix of traditional and contemporary.
I wanted to fill the book with recipes that are accessible to people no matter where they are. So these are all ingredients you can pretty much find anywhere.
Also on our table, chickpea stew with honey-roasted cauliflower and root vegetables, an eggplant and tomato dish with trahana, an ancient Greek grain, plus jammy Kalamata olives with mixed herbs. A comforting combination of sautéed grains with a bounty of greens is finished with Greek extra virgin olive oil. Its name, in case you forget what makes Ikaria stand out, longevity greens rice. Kochilas balances its fresh flavor with a citrus and mint iced tea using leaves from the Greek mountainside.
Can you say yamas?
Yamas!
Yamas.
Is that cheers?
That means to our health.
Growing up in New York, Kochilas wasn't always fluent in Greek, but she picked up the culture and some cooking from her father, a professional chef.
I mean, I remember going to the supermarket when I was little with my dad, and we would fill up 2 shopping carts of food.
Ikaria was his homeland. He left as a young man and never got a chance to return before he died when Kochilas was a child. A visit to the island as a teen proved to be a seminal moment.
Knowing that you belong to this place, that you have a village, that to me was one of the greatest gifts my parents ever gave me.
Did you feel that from the moment you stepped foot on the island?
I felt that every single day of my childhood in Queens, looking at a 3D map of Icaria as the only piece of art on our walls. I felt like it was totally my home.
Even after she returned to the U.S. and eventually became a newspaper reporter, her family's homeland kept calling. And one day in the 1980s, Kochilas realized it had been about a decade since a Greek cookbook was published in English. She decided to give it a try.
I kind of jumped into this book without really knowing what I was doing, but I taught myself to cook while I was writing it. And I would collect recipes in the markets. I'd go and talk to ladies, who were shopping, and I'd say, how do you, what do you do with the spinach, or how do you do this? And I would have our friends over practically every night of the week. And it
Testing out recipes.
And it was a really fun year. And then just roll this up.
Today, Kochilas shares the food of Greece as the host of the PBS show, My Greek Table.
And voila, a really easy stuffed grape leaf.
She also splits her time between New York and Icaria, where she teaches a popular cooking class to visitors from across the U.S.
What does it mean for you to share these dishes from a place you love so much?
For me, it means sharing a way of eating that you can enjoy regardless of where you are. When you share this food with friends or family, you're also giving them something that's healthy, but also something that's delicious.
And full of love.
And full of love.
The food is so fresh,
It's
so
so good.
flavorful. We brought some here for you
can't stop
today.
eating it.
I know, it's
so
really good.
amazing.
It's
Yogurt with
delicious.
honey.
We want to thank our friends at Estiatorio Milos for this wonderful spread. Doesn't it look gorgeous? And I know you've been imbibing on the Greek yogurt with honey over there.
It's good.
I love when she said the recipe isn't only about the food.
I wrote that down.
Yeah, it's like, and then it's about all the other things. By the way, I don't even think that's just Greek culture. So many chefs you talk about, it isn't just what's in the recipe. It's everything that goes around
It's
the
the
meal.
story.
It's the story
It's the
behind all of it.
family.
Yeah.
And what I
great.
also love about her new book is that it turns these Greek classics, like we mentioned, into these very plant-forward, plant-based recipes. And she uses substitutes like lentils and legumes instead of artificial substitutes, too. So
I'm so
really
happy
good.
right now. This is
Look
easily
at the
one
size
of
of
my
these
favorite
gigante beans. They're like
Got the gigante
as big as
beans.
your hand.
They're truly gigante.
They're gigante.
On the dish this week, we meet British chef and TV presenter Andi Oliver. After decades carving out a highly successful career in the culinary world in Britain, Oliver has just published her first cookbook, The Pepperpot Diaries. It is a flavor-filled journey to her Antiguan roots. And MTS Tayeb met Oliver for dinner in the English town of Stratford-upon-Avon to get a taste of the Caribbean.
Andi Oliver is a whiz in the kitchen, where she whips up the supercharged flavors of her family's Antiguan roots.
See, it takes its own shape.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's cool, right? Fascinating and
On
delicious.
TV, she's the host of the BBC's Great British Menu, famous for her warmth.
And then we've got 3 cheese bread and butter.
Behind the
really
mic,
caramelised
she
onion
fronts a
bread and butter
popular
pudding with a
podcast
smoked
with her
chili
daughter,
rabbit,
Makita,
and then
called
fresh
Stirring
corn
It Up.
and girole mushrooms. Hot toddy, babe.
Oliver's success in culinary circles is as high profile as it gets, and is a culmination of a lifetime's love of food. But the soundtrack to her eclectic life is decidedly punk. A music scene she embraced back in the late 70s at just 15 years old.
It was so perfect.
Even girls with parents from Antigua?
Absolutely, with girls and parents from Antigua.
She even had her own band, Rip Rig and Panic, with her brother Sean and lifelong best friend Nana Cherry.
I think food and music are the basis of human happiness. I call it breaking bread and the drum, right? So the sound of music, you can dance with a stranger in the street, you know, you can cook with somebody you just met, you know.
As a child growing up in the east of England, where she attended nearly all-white schools, harmony was in short supply.
You know, I had a teacher who just was awful to me, this German teacher. I went to school with my hair in cane rows and he made me stand at the front of the class, and the first 10 minutes of the class was the kids sort of humiliating me, trying to find German words to say that I looked ridiculous. But that whole experience has taught me to be an empathetic human, and it taught me the value of looking another human being in the eye and just saying hello.
A hello that started with food.
The first time I had a dinner party, I was like 12. I mean, what a weirdo. Yeah. I was like, come over, I'm making dinner. My friends were like, what are you talking about?
After the band broke up, Oliver began catering music events and eventually jointly ran her own pub kitchen, where her boundless energy led to TV offers and 2 more eateries. But it's her first cookbook, the Pepperpot Diaries, she's most proud of.
What is the Pepperpot Diaries?
Right, so Pepperpot is the national dish of Antigua. And in that book is my grandmother's pepperpot recipe. And so really, calling it the Pepperpot Diaries is a love letter note to my grandmother, Mama, who was the most exceptional woman.
The bright flavors of Antigua and the Caribbean were born out of the darkness of centuries of slavery and forced labor, blending influences from Africa to India.
Now, what is this then?
Inspiring recipes like plantain and coconut fungi.
I wasn't expecting it to be so much like polenta.
Yeah.
Her unique take on goat curry.
Yeah. And what made you think, I want to put chocolate in this?
I just became really interested in the idea of mole, which is a Mexican dish that's got chocolate.
Oh, wow. It's so funny. It's present, but it's not.
Yes.
And the Firm family favorite, honey-baked chicken.
Yeah, I want you to have that piece of chicken.
Beautiful.
I like that piece of chicken. And then I need you to have a little bit of the sauce, you see.
Okay. It's really beautiful and glossy and shiny.
And friendly.
And friendly. It says, please eat me.
Hi.
And I was expecting it to be really sweet.
No.
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 But make no mistake, spice is on the menu.
That's really hot, by the way.
Okay,
I just warn you, you get too perky with that.
Oh, it is hot.
Yes, it's hot.
Oliver's lifetime love of food has had its share of bitter moments. When her only brother Sean died at just 27 years old, the trauma triggered a serious eating disorder.
In some ways, that was one of the most difficult things about the grieving for me, was that because food and cooking and doing this had always been my friend and my saving. It was like my friend turned against me.
A friendship she was able to rebuild with specialist treatment, allowing her to savor, once again, desserts like her famous coconut and lime cheesecake.
You might need to bring your plate a little closer.
That's all right.
Here we go. Come on, baby. Come on, darling. Oh, there she
gorgeous.
goes. There we go.
Gorgeous. It's light, it's frothy, it's citrusy, it's coconutty, it's everything.
It's everything, all at the same time.
From punk rock to the top of Britain's food scene, Andi Oliver marches and cooks to the beat of her own drum, while never forgetting her Caribbean roots.
Everything I've eaten today feels like a celebration. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that's happened?
I think the darker the day has been for a people, sometimes the more delicious the food is, because they've had to find simple ways to bring light back into their lives. There is love, we have each other, there is humanity.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Imtiaz Tayeb, Stratford-upon-Avon.
Ooh,
I love her.
I love her, and I just love the food. It looks so scrumptious.
That line was so good from her. I think food and music are the basis of human happiness.
And the basis of our show, oftentimes, right?
Yeah.
And
At the
words.
end.
True,
Yeah.
true that, true that.
Cheers to that, right?
Very nice.
I
very
like
nice.
that we had more light. I'm thinking the pecan tree was a way of bringing light
Yeah,
into the
we
world.
brought.
And this is a way,
We
too.
like bringing light into the world.
I don't know how to get that in. Cheers.
Rum and ginger.
Rose Previte's restaurants regularly rank among the top spots in our nation's capital. Her dishes inspired by her travels through the Middle East, the Caucasus, and North Africa, as well as her time in the kitchen with her mom, whose family is from Lebanon. Now Previte is out with a book filled with those recipes, and some of them can also be found on the menu at her Michelin-starred restaurant, Maidan, where we turned up the heat on some Middle Eastern favorites. Before diners get a chance to taste dishes at Maidan, they feel their heat. From the center of this intimate space, as white oak logs burn up to 1,000 degrees. A truly warm welcome by Rose Previte, who named her restaurant after the Arabic word for public square or gathering place.
The reason I opened restaurants was to bring people together over food and drink. And it's really just about the energy that happens when everyone's in the same space. And I felt that in these Maidans all over the world. I want you to come to Maidan to celebrate, to mourn, sometimes to rebel.
And to feast. Here, the best order lacks order. A spread of protein, dips, and herbs is enjoyed all together in the signature towel or table experience.
People are so used to coursing, appetizer, main, dessert. That's not how it works here. You just fill the table and you kind of mix and match everything.
So that means, I guess, that there's no right way to start our feast.
No, there's absolutely no right or wrong. There are no rules.
That said, we begin with the ribeye, dry rubbed with caramelized Georgian fenugreek and ajika.
Do not sleep on the sumac onions. These are actually delicious, and we mix them with parsley and mint, and they enhance every single bite.
It's served alongside a Lebanese staple, mahamra, a dip made of walnuts, roasted red pepper, pomegranates, and molasses. There's also yogurt-based lebne, mixed with lemon, garlic, and dill. Flavors that prove useful for our next combination, chicken shish tawuk.
Take a whole chunk, or as much as you can, put it in the bread, and now you want to layer. Oh. So I would do either muhammar and lebna or both, and I lay it right on top. And then we finally get to our sabzi platter. And then we just pull a little bit of herbs.
That's good.
It is good, right?
Maidan's colorful dishes are packed with spices, imported from markets thousands of miles away. Previte shares their ingredients and stories in her new book, Maidan, Recipes from Lebanon and Beyond.
You note that many of your recipes and your dishes come from parts of the world that are more associated with tragedy and trauma than food. Why is it important for you to change that narrative?
I really felt it was, my job almost to come back to the US and teach people here about places they might not have been to. And what I found, of course, was the American perspective on the places we went was one of shock that we would go there, or fear that that place might not be safe. And I was welcomed into homes of many families, and women in particular, who took me into their kitchens and cooked with me and taught me their family traditions. I really think that food and education are the best way to create understanding.
Her approach came in part from traveling through more than 24 countries after moving with her husband David to Moscow when he became a foreign correspondent. The 3-year assignment was difficult. She had trouble finding her footing professionally. A master's graduate of public policy, Previte was unable to obtain a work visa.
I had never been one to just follow a man. And then all of a sudden I was just at parties and places just talking about David's cool job, and I didn't have anything, so I felt that sense of losing myself. And that is eventually what got me to my true passion.
That passion was food, inspired from a young age by her Lebanese-American grandmother and mother in their tiny Ohio town.
My mom didn't pass along language. I don't speak Arabic. But what she did do was pass along the food so that we wouldn't forget where they came from.
Why do you think food has been so resilient in being passed down across generations when other aspects of culture are not?
I think that food is one of the best ways that we hold memory. And for me, and what you'll see in the cookbook, is like food is storytelling. Almost every dish in there has a story behind it.
Wanting to share the culinary stories of those she's encountered, Previte opened her first restaurant after they returned to Washington, D.C., Compass Rose, highlighting street food from around the world. It quickly landed on lists of D.C.'s best restaurants. And 5 years later, as Previte prepared to open Maidan, she brought a team of chefs for a whirlwind research trip through the Middle East and North Africa.
I call it Cooking with Girls. That was our little hashtag. In this part of the world, it tends to be women in the kitchens. And I think they hold some of the most powerful stories, the most powerful techniques. These women in these kitchens have been doing this a certain way for generations. Well, and that's really what this place is about. It was the passion and the spirit of women who cooked for years without any recognition. I mean, they would look at us and kind of laugh like, why do you want to know this again? I'm just going to dash in a little bit of lemon.
Previte also incorporated recipes from her childhood kitchen, where her family would gather to cook and connect.
So this is a recipe that's been perfected over decades.
Oh, 100%. It's like a staple to everything.
A creamy and smooth hummus, it's now one of Maidan's most beloved dishes.
So this is like a small lamb shoulder.
Especially when topped with simmered pulled lamb.
Try to get a whole bite, get hummus and meat.
The family recipe and technique enduring the test of time. Previte holds food as a thread to her heritage and part of an inherited immigrant experience as her family assimilated, with unspoken rules about what was permissible inside versus outside their home. Rules passed down like secret codes.
What are those secret codes?
Oh, it makes me tear up a little bit. It was what is passed down. We kind of knew from my parents that there were things that maybe other people might not understand, but they wanted us to know. And I think through food and tradition, they were able to impart on us the importance of not forgetting where you came from or who you are.
Not so secret anymore.
Not so secret anymore. Secret's out.
I love her message about how food is what is passed down through generations and across time. I mean, her father is, we should also mention, Sicilian American, and her mom, of course, from a Lebanese family. And food is how they sent that love back. But and we also brought some food here.
Dig in. Right?
Yes.
So we just have we have at least six different kind of dips. I feel like Martin Shorten, Only Murders in the Building.
Just go through all of them. Well, and that being said, what I love about what she says is it's not just about the appetizer and then the main course. It all comes in together.